Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to this YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 7 ways to tap into your creative genius. 7 different things you can proactively do to encourage the muse to show up. For the longest time, I was under the assumption, falsely, that creative inspiration had a mind of its own, even though it kind of does. I was under the assumption that it comes when it wants to. And I'd find myself frustrated when I'd wake up and I'd want to film a video or write a blog post or an email or work on my book or do something creative. And it was like, well, I guess it's not happening today. I guess there's nothing I can do. It's out of my hands. I guess I'll just try again tomorrow. But I found that there are things we can do to not control the muse, but to heavily persuade it to show up a heck of a lot more often. And the more us as spiritual entrepreneurs, creatives in general, can tap in to this wellspring of inspired ideas, inspired thinking, creative energy, the faster we can grow our business, the more prolific we can become, the more often we can just enjoy what it feels like to be tapped in to our higher self with pouring out from our heart these creative projects. It's more fun. It's something within our control. And I've been an entrepreneur for about 6-7 years, and I'm going to share with you 7 things that I personally do and recommend to my clients to help with this thing. Number 1 is having plenty of space in your life. A lot of times for me, it's just like that old saying, when you're trying to find something, the best thing you can do is stop looking for it. Just like a couple of weeks ago, I was totally stuck. I forgot what it was. I think it was on my book or something. I've been writing a book and I was totally stuck for ideas. I've been putting in the time and energy, trying my other 6 things. Nothing was working. And finally I said, you know what, screw it. I'm taking a bath. I'm taking a break from this. And I started to take my bath. Put in some nice Epsom salt, some lavender, no radio, no nothing. I just laid there. And within about 3 minutes, out of nowhere, this amazing idea just popped into my head. A lot of times, these ideas are around us, but if you look too hard, you can miss them. In fact, we run these plant medicine ceremonies in Costa Rica. And one of the things that can happen is sometimes people drinking either ayahuasca or wachuma for their very first time, they don't feel anything. It's a very common thing and they're frustrated. They flew all the way out to Costa Rica, they paid all this money, and now nothing. And the medicine people we use, they always say, if you look too hard, you just might miss it. And that can go a long way with your own creative projects. Number 2 is prime yourself. This is a direct contradiction to number 1. We're dealing with paradoxes here. There is no simple formula for getting the muse to show up. So sometimes we have to try different things. But priming yourself, what does that mean? It means, for me, where's my phone? Right here. I have my phone, and in fact, let's see if I can find them. Right here. I get ideas all throughout the day, and I type them into the note section of my phone. I have many different categories for different podcasts, YouTube, book, business, full-time purpose, all these different things that are ready for my ideas. So sometimes the fastest way to get more ideas is to write down the ones you're already getting and then to make use of them. But I just go through life basically on the lookout for ideas. And I find them in the most random places. In fact, one of my best emails I ever wrote, one of my best newsletters, it literally came from something so simple. I sat down one day to write an email and I couldn't think of any ideas. My different techniques were failing me. And then I turned on my computer anyway, hoping to get something rolling. And it was a software update. I have this MacBook here, like a regular MacBook, and once in a great while, you want to get something done and you got to let the computer shut down and update. And anyway, that simple thing gave me an idea. I used that as a metaphor for going through a spiritual awakening and going through your own personal upgrade. And sometimes you have to, anyway, I got an inspiration because I'm always on the lookout from something as simple and mundane as a computer software update, because I prime myself. I'm on the lookout. I'm ready for them. Number 3, I wrote down here, push through like Stephen King. As I said, and you probably all know this, sometimes you wake up and there are just, in fact today, I woke up and I had like no ideas. And I thought today might be a day where I don't create anything. But I sat down with this, I have all my tools here, with this thing here, and I started typing and all of a sudden, ideas came. So what Stephen King recommends by pushing through, it's something I learned from his book. Stephen King, most of you know, is a very prolific writer. He's got, I don't know, dozens, if not 30, 40, 50 thick books, science fiction books out. Obviously, he knows a little something about the creative energies of the universe, and he's learned how to tap into them quite frequently. And one of his #1 pieces of advice from his book on writing, which is all about the craft, it's more of a personal memoir about his journey as a writer, is he says he wakes up every day to write, and most days he has to push through his first crappy 500 words. Meaning, he sits down, the muse is nowhere to be found, but he writes anyways. And what he writes for those first 500 words, roughly, it's not good. He's not going to use it. But because he's sitting down, he's dedicating himself, he's putting in the energy, eventually, he says he locks in, he taps in, the muse finally makes her appearance. And that's what I mean by pushing through. I have done this many times with my videos where even when I've had an inspired idea, it wasn't coming through right, and I'd go to film the video and it just wasn't good. I was not in my flow, I was not in my state I like to be in, and I'll sometimes record the introduction part 2, 3, 4 times until I finally lock in. And then I just dismiss all the other stuff and go for it. So sometimes you have to use some dedication and have some patience and just push through, knowing there's a good likelihood you will tap in at some point. Number 4 is get out there and live your life. A lot of times when we become, we put all our focus into building our spiritual business or our business in general, that becomes our life. And we start to live a very plain, unrelatable life, where all we're doing is waking up and getting onto our computer, filming our YouTube videos, doing all the different things we need to on our own. And a lot of times you're limited with inspirations you can get by breaking up your routine, going for a walk, going and hanging out and playing pickleball with your friends. A lot of times I'll be kind of stuck in my creative process, and I'll go and hang out with my friends, Aaron and Matt and our buddies, and we'll just kind of hang out. Nothing too deep necessarily, but just in a random casual conversation, seeing how people are doing, noticing the different patterns and themes people are working with. I come home from a pickleball date with my buddies with just burst. My phone is just overwhelmed with creative ideas I wrote down as I was hanging out. I just got back also from Costa Rica. My friend Aaron and Matt and my wife and all my buddies were there. We do these ayahuasca retreats, and my God, we all have like months of content ideas because of just, we got ourselves out there. We were going through our own changes, doing our own shadow work, having new and different experiences. It's a priceless thing that is just so unspeakably beneficial for not only the creative process, but just overall personal development, personal growth, which always bleeds in to our business. Your business, my business, it's a direct reflection of us. And if we neglect ourselves, if we're not willing to invest our time and our money and our energy into ourselves, into our growth, into our development, then we can't expect our business to expand. It's a direct reflection of you. So getting yourself out there, trying something new is absolutely huge. Number 4 is to experiment, even with little things. For example, there's times where I'm going to film a YouTube video and I'm standing up. I'm sitting down right now and I'll be standing up, and for some reason it's just not coming through. I'm well planned, I got my notes, and it's a good idea, good, very inspired topics I'm just ready to talk about. I've done all the other things I can. I've tried to push through and it's just not happening. A lot of times, novices will give up and call it a day, try again tomorrow. But the pros understand that if you want to get something done, it's just a matter of finding the way. And it can be a little shift. And I've had this many times. If I really find myself stuck, if I'm standing up, I will sit down. And for somehow, sitting down changes my energy a lot. And maybe that message that was inspired initially is best delivered from maybe a calmer, seated place. Maybe it will impact people more deeply if I'm relaxed and seated and not standing and super like all over the place and animated. Other times it's the opposite. I do this with my writing. Sometimes I write on this thing, and sometimes I write on my computer. I'll write outside, I'll write on my couch. The location of where I write somehow makes a difference. The things I do that lead up to writing somehow make a difference. And if you're just willing to experiment and are patient with yourself and patient with the process, you too will find your own little hacks, your own little things that just for some weird random reason work for you. Number 6 is move your body. This comes straight from Tony Robbins. He says, you gotta change your state. He says, if you're depressed, what do people look like when they're depressed? They're not inspired, they're not creative, they're depressed. What do they look like? They're usually kind of hunched over, head hanging low, shoulders rounded, low energy. And then unfortunately, that posture reinforces the depression. He says you can't be depressed if you are standing up, chest and arms open, hands at the sky, pumping, smiling and yelling. He would have us do that at I went to his event, Date with Destiny. He's like, good luck staying depressed when you're doing that. So we can do that even in a better way. That's a very simple, rudimentary way of changing your state. Why not try some yoga? Yoga is like a sacred science, thousands of years old, that is all about maximizing there's many benefits of yoga, but one of the main things is it opens up your energy centers. So the whole point of yoga, without going on a yoga tangent, is for union with the divine. And the system opens you up, opens up your channels so you can be more receptive to the divine. So yoga is a phenomenal. Whenever I do yoga and then I hop on it and do a video or write or do anything creative, I'm always like way on point. Maybe you hate, my buddy Aaron, he hates yoga. You'll never in a million years see that guy doing yoga. He just doesn't like it. He goes to the gym and he works out. I know people that just do breath work. I will sometimes meditate. There's many different things meditation is not moving your body, obviously. Bad example. But there are many things you can do to move your body. Just even like, just like jumping around randomly. You'll free up your chi energy, and you'll find that it comes out nicely in whatever it is you're doing. So I will rarely, especially film a video, having not moved my body prior. Now in this case I just freaking woke up and did it after a little bit of typing. But most of the time I will move my body because it just makes a very profound difference. Especially if you're one that really gets in your head a lot and gets like overly critical, and even though you might show up ready to rock and roll and inspired, because maybe you're new and you're just always getting in your mind and getting in your own way. Go sprint around the backyard. Sprint back and forth in your backyard like 10 times. Wipe off the sweat, sit down, and you're out of your head, you're into your body, you're into your flow. Number 7 is redefine failure and put in the time. What I mean by that is a lot of times with the creative process, our inspired ideas don't really pan out. I read this awesome book by Rick Rubin. He says every inspired idea deserves to be tested. He said sometimes those huge ideas that you are just sure that's your $1 million idea, that's your breakthrough idea, they go nowhere. And sometimes it's like the little ones that don't seem like a big deal, that once given a proper test, end up being a game changer for you. But regardless, they all need to be tested. But the reality is many of them will fail, will flop, will not go anywhere. And when I was starting out, I would get very frustrated and I would take this very personally. I would question the whole inspired guidance system as a whole to begin with. And I created a lot of problems for myself because I didn't understand the mechanism and the purpose of failure. Whenever we fail at something, it always gives us a new way of thinking that we probably wouldn't have been able to tap into had we not gone down that path initially and failed. So not getting so discouraged when you fail and just accepting it as part of the process. And also just putting the work in. It's kind of the second part of this. This is something kind of a secondary component of this. And I see this a lot when I'm writing my book. There's times where I sit down from like 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon to write my book, and I will not get up for the entire hour, but I will not like one word of what I wrote. None of it was inspired, it was not good, and sometimes, in fact, I even stopped writing before bed because sometimes I get so frustrated because I put in the time and the energy and absolutely nothing comes of it in the moment. But always I notice this weird pattern where after that, maybe like the next morning or maybe an hour or two later, I get flooded with these creative ideas. Almost like even though that hour seemed to go nowhere, it was adding energy, adding investment into my goal. And then the universe in its mysterious ways is able to work with me in a different way. So it's always rewarded your fruitless effort. Failures always also help you indirectly. And if you really want to maximize your creative gusto, you can't be discouraged or dissuaded by failure, and you have to put the work in even when it's not panning out, knowing that it will pan out in the future.